In the 10th episode of Dandadan, Seiko denies the Dover Demon being an alien, instead insisting he's a Kappa. I didn't know this at first when I started reading the manga, but the creatures and characters in this story are actually real-world ideas that Tatsuyuki Nobu incorporated. They're cryptids and urban legends that he populated the world of Dandadan with. In this video, I'm going to review these ideas as they exist in real life to discover the history behind them that Tatsu brought into his story and made his own. Just a heads up, this is going to be a basic intro to the idea and won't be going super in-depth. If you want to know more, I encourage you to go dig into the research for this stuff yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in this one, Seiko continues to insist that aliens don't exist, and dodges the Dover Demon, or Mr. Mantis Shrimp, as an example of an alien by insisting he is, instead, a Kappa. Kappa are another well-known kind of spiritual being originating in Japanese folklore. According to Wikipedia, they are not actually yokai, but kami, which is something I think that may even be forgotten by Japanese people, as I've seen plenty of depictions that don't quite treat them with the kind of reverence you'd expect to be shown towards a kami. Kami are an essential aspect of Shintoism, which is nominally a Japanese religion, but its aspects have become so ingrained into Japanese society and practices that it's effectively part of their culture at this point as well. For example, all the festivals and holiday events you tend to see in Japanese works, especially things like going to a shrine to pray on New Year's, all have their origins in Shintoism, and many Japanese people practice these traditions culturally without really putting a ton of stock or faith in the religious aspects of Shintoism. Anytime you see shrines in Japanese media, these are almost certainly Shinto shrines. They're not to be confused with Buddhist temples, however, and the easiest way to tell the difference between them is to look for the red torii gate, like the one Seiko has at the entrance of the Ayase family home, or to look for a large incense burner and/or a graveyard, which usually denotes a Buddhist temple. Honestly, it can be kind of difficult to tell them apart as a foreigner, but the important thing about Shinto shrines, as pertains to this video, is that each of them tends to be built to honor a specific kami. Kami basically translates as God, and much like how the ancient Greeks and Romans had various gods who governed all sorts of different aspects of nature, as well as human life and society, Shinto kami also govern various aspects of the world as well. In fact, there are so many kami in Shintoism, they have a phrase to refer to them collectively, Yaoyorozu no Kami, which translates as the 8 million gods, but is also oftentimes localized as the myriad gods. If you're into My Hero Academia, you might recognize a character by this name, and just like almost everybody's name in My Hero is a pun of some kind related to their quirk, Yaoyorozu is named as such to reference how the amount of things she can generate with creation is basically infinite, much like the myriad gods themselves. Just a little bonus trivia for you for a completely different anime. Anyway, back on the topic of Kappa. As you might expect, given Mr. Mantis Shrimp's proclivity for water, Kappa are often considered to be water kami, governing the respective bodies of water they inhabit, or acting as an avatar for Mizuno Kami, the god of water. As Kappa have been so widely written about, their behavior has been depicted variously through the ages as friendly, mischievous, and sometimes even outright hostile. Sometimes they just like to pop out of water to give people a decent scare. Other times they hide in the water and look up women's kimono or skirts. And sometimes they even go so far as to attack, kidnap, or even rape people. Basically all this means is that how a Kappa's behavior is depicted is pretty much entirely up to whoever happens to be writing about them. Two interesting aspects that seem to be commonly agreed upon are their fondness for cucumbers and sumo wrestling. In a lot of different works, and at festivals in real life, you'll often find cucumbers put out as offerings for Kappa, with some localities even having traditions involving carving names of family members into cucumbers and releasing them into rivers as offerings to Kappa in hopes it will protect the named family member from water-related hazards. As for sumo wrestling, a commonly depicted motif throughout Japan is that of the kappa attempting to drown a horse, which it can supposedly do using its prodigious wrestling skill and strength that far exceeds that of a grown man. Supposedly, the kappa migrate from rivers to mountains twice a year on the equinoxes, the vernal and autumnal, which mark the transition from winter into spring and from summer into fall, respectively. During these migrations, festivals take place in certain parts of Japan to appease the kappa and pay homage to them in order to ensure a good harvest. As far as their appearance, they tend to be depicted as scaly, lizard-like little guys with webbed appendages, oftentimes with a turtle-like carapace on their back as well, and with a depression on their heads referred to as a sada, or dish, that is meant to hold water. And if they lose the water from spillage or evaporation, they supposedly become weaker. Due to this, you'll often see kappa depicted with either large leaves or lily pads for hats to help keep their water in their dish, which might have been at least a partial inspiration for the design of a particular Pokemon, amongst other inspirations. For some reason, these spirits seem to have been given a butthole fixation, as it is said they sometimes attack humans to take their shirikodama. Google Translate says shirikodama translates as butt plug, which could be it just being outright wrong, as we all know Google Translate's accuracy problems, but it also wouldn't surprise me if this is a common slang term for actual butt plugs in Japan, given what we learned about the meaning behind the phrase kintama a few videos ago. Either way, it's supposedly a mythical organ that kappa seek to steal from people's butts to give them power. It is also said in some texts that the kappa has 3 anuses, allowing them to pass 3 times the amount of gas as a human, for some reason. Anyway, as far as appearances go, how Seiko could believe Mr. Mantis Shrimp is a kappa, considering the way he looks, is beyond me. But I feel like him just straight up not looking like a kappa at all is part of the joke. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this episode of The Truth Behind Dandadan. Hopefully you enjoyed this little review of the real-world ideas behind the show. Feel free to drop a comment if you can think of any other info I didn't manage to find. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe as well so you can support the channel and see what else I put out. Until I see you next time, stay safe and have fun.